This is Radically Alive Women's Edgecast. I welcome you to Radically Alive Women Edgecast, Janet Redmond. Thank you for returning to this recording studio, so to speak, as the version of you that you are now. I want to know who you are now. Will you tell us who you are now?
Yes, I used the word yesterday with James. James, I can see I'm the village surgeon in that really matters to me to take care of people's hearts. And amongst other many roles here, that's the one that's most alive and the one linked to the topic you've invited me to talk about.
Yes. Yeah, I've reached out to you and invited you to return to this Edgecast. You've been here before on different topics, and this topic is dear to me because of shared experience, and it's about your mother dying recently, not that long ago. Your mother passed away, and you not only accompanied her in the dying process, you also accompanied her beyond that in the ceremony and in her last journey, I would say, to England, back to England from New Zealand, her ashes. And I invited you to talk about that and to hear of the magic that you've created. And there's also this, I think it's a more archetypal topic of the mother actually in physical form dying, which I have experienced only a couple of months ago as well, which is a massive initiation from my experience. And I think on a culture, like on a more global level, it is big, or it is significant, let's say.
Yeah.
What is alive in you about that right now? When you hear me speak to this topic?
Having declared one of my roles as the village heart surgeon, it's significant because I closed my heart to my mum very early on. My brother was born 15 months after me. She was a solo mum. Dad was in the army. And I look like my grandma. Well, I'm glad I do. But they had a strange hate relationship, actually. So that's historic. And eventually, through lots and lots of healing processes, I could find a way to love my mum. And I could honestly say there's not one thing I could have done differently with mum's dying process. So as a family, we started off over 2 years ago co-creating their advanced care plan. Now this is something you can get online in New Zealand. I don't know if you can get it in other places in the world. And it gives you questions to ask so that the questions have already been asked about the quality of care. At which point did Mom and I stop any more intervention? It was a really scary process because our family don't talk about these things. But I kept visiting and sowing seeds of, well, Mum, when you die, where do you want to be? And, we don't talk about things like that. Okay, then go again another few months later. So it was a beautiful process, actually, of daring to go where, going the forbidden zone. So it started well over 2 years ago with the very intellectual body discussion, including with my brother and sister-in-law. So that part really made a difference once it came to her getting more and more frail. And I'd already been holding spaces in Motueka with James Samuel, and I called it responsible dying, getting all your ducks in a row. So this has been sitting there for a while for me. How do we literally get all our ducks in a row and take responsibility for what needs tidying up before we die.
I mean, I could go into the direction of what did you need to do to be able to persevere in that. What I also noticed in me that how it supported my letting go process, and I think also actually my mother's letting go process, that I had done quite some healing in that relationship. So to shift away from having this really strained mother-daughter relationship, to go towards, okay, let's talk about death, and also let me go there, like let me accompany you in this process. The processing doesn't happen after death. A lot of people start maybe having remorse or having these thoughts of what if I had done this and this before she died. And what I hear is that you took responsibility for this whole process before she died in yourself, but then also in the care of how does it go when your life comes to an end. How long was this process for you?
Oh, decades. I kept my mum had a really sharp tongue and a lot of unhealed trauma and bitterness. So it took a long time. I mean, why would I go there? But the more I did my own healing and could hold space, make the distinction that this was her reactivity, it served the dying process. But I'm talking a long time. Never. If you'd have said to me when I was 40, you'll be the one accompanying your mum's death, supporting her, I'd have said, no way. But I did, and I could. Yeah, I'm connecting. My sadness is I could do what I needed to do in my heart to be able to love her when she was most frail. Yeah, I stayed with her in the hospital, and it's beautiful to talk about what I had to do historically to be able to be there for her at the end, because I'd have thought it would have been my sister and brother more than my involvement, and it wasn't. Beautifully, we were all there at the end, and it was no secret that my brother was Mum's favourite. But we were there together, and well, I can see this is a lot to talk about. And so I just knew Michael was the one holding her pulse. And it was a beautiful process. It seemed to me like watching her die from the bottom up. And this is what the nurses were looking for. They were looking for how cold her physical body went. And for me, it was like she died from the bottom up. And about 24 hours before she took her last breath, she stopped talking. It was like I could feel she'd gone somewhere else. It was so beautiful, and the opposite of what I would have thought for her. It's like she just slowly stopped breathing, less and less. And the last breath, she went, huh. And that was it. So gentle. So gentle. I've been with other people dying, and it was not like that. It was precious. Mum was really well before she had half her tongue cut out at the end of April. She had some cancer, but she was robust enough. And she recovered well from that surgery, and unfortunately had a fall in Auckland Hospital. that fall wasn't documented, and she came home with a broken femur and ended up straight away back in the hospital. So then her physical deterioration was pretty quick because she'd got bed sores from being in the hospital, really painful ones that ended up going toxic. Once I took her to the hospital, they wanted to do all these interventions, and she was eventually sent home, basically to go to a rest home. Now, this is where the magic comes in. My fear knew she wasn't going to be getting better. So come one of the Tuesdays, 8 days before she died, I'd rung the hospice people and I said, look, Mum needs some more symptom relief. She needs to come in for respite. And I registered her there. And they said, oh no, she needs to have a doctor. Can you take her to the doctors? So no way can I get her to the doctors. So we'd wait 8 days for the doctor to come and assess her. And over that time, she deteriorated hugely. Unfortunately, she was a bloody stubborn, strong Lancashire woman, and there's no way she was going to go to any other hospital. She'd already made that. Dad wanted her to go. He could see the pain she was in. So that particular Tuesday when the doctor came, he didn't think she was as close to end of life as I did. And so he referred her to Auckland Hospital. When the paramedics came, I said to the paramedics, he said, what do you want? I said, she needs respite care. She needs to go to hospice. And then I realized we needed to activate this end-of-life care plan. So I said to the paramedic, we've got the end-of-life care plan. And I said, Mum, is this the time for no more intervention? Well, what else can I bloody well do? Right, Mum. The paramedic said, but do you know what will happen if you don't have any more, if we say no more intervention? And she said, yeah, I do. And then I came in and I said, Mum, you need to say the words. It's got to come from your mouth. Yep, I'll die sooner. So that's when the paramedic wrote palliative care, or palliation, I think he called it. But unfortunately, the medical doctor had said to go to the hospital. So by then we had this end-of-life care plan that was the legal document for no more intervention. And I stayed with her 3 nights in that hospital. And eventually we got, on the Friday, the 4th of July, got her to the hospice, where it was exquisite care, beautiful. And then once she got on the pain pump and had adequate pain relief, I could see her relax. And she died the next day. But the hospice people had never quite seen anything like it. That one of the doctors would come and say, so you want to take her out of here? Or you don't want a funeral director? No, I don't want to. I want to do the funeral directing. Oh. And then they'd go again, and I imagine they were talking in the background. Then somebody else would go, well, how are you going to get her out of here? I said, well, when she dies, we'll wash her in the bed, and then we'll put her in the coffin. Well, where's the coffin? Well, the coffin's in the van in the car park, of course. And then go again, and another nurse or doctor. But has the coffin got handles? Yeah, the coffin's got handles. So I know we were a mystery to the hospice, which is pretty, clued up with dying. But it was a very precious process for my sister-in-law, who's also called Janet, and my other sister. We, the women, cleaned her body and dressed her and put her in the coffin. And the men instinctively knew, like Dad and my brother got out the way. So that was precious. And just literally lifted her into the coffin. We chose a coffin that the kids could write on and draw messages the next day. And with more time, my brother would have made her the coffin, or I would have loved her to just be in a shroud because she was a Lancashire weaver, Lancashire cotton, and to have sat and woven the edge of the shroud on a hardboard. Anyway, that's for another time. So we took her home with my brother-in-law's van and turned up at the village where Dad lives. And there was curtains opening, watching us carry what's in this box. Like, you can imagine how many people were curious. So it's beautiful to have Mum at home. And Dad wanted to have her funeral downstairs in this lovely lounge at the village. But aged care places don't like hearses, and they don't like to see coffins. If you can see my funny face. Unbelievable. So what that meant was I took her to get cremated at the crematorium in North Shore. We did that on the Monday. I didn't want any embalming. It's not needed. We had her on ice, called Manaki mats, and they're in a little freezer. So we kept changing the ice so that she didn't need embalming, even in the heat of summer. So then on the Sunday, she died on the Saturday. Sunday, those who wanted to come and see her.
I'm now in Germany, and it's just inconceivable that anyone would just take the body home and keep it. Regulations would not allow that. So I'm glad New Zealand has a different, or you could create something different there.
If anybody else wants to do this, we had to wait for the death certificate and this paperwork, and then she could go and get cremated.
So you had her cremated, and then what happened?
Yeah, I'm going to go back because then the Sunday was super for the grandchildren. Some of them were scared to see her dead body, and them watching different ways of seeing Grandma or not seeing her. Like, they all had choice. They talked about their fears. Some said, well, when something goes a bit rotten and it has to go in the compost, well, that's just how it is with Grandma. It's time for her to go in the compost. Mum would have loved that. So the kids found their own way, drawing letters. It was beautiful. The next day, James and I took the coffin and Mum to the crematorium.
So that was in the 24-hour period that the children and all the family had time to farewell the body.
Yeah, and Dad could stay where Dad lives. We could have done it for longer, but we weren't sure we could get the ashes back in time for the memorial I was creating. It was the right time. Yeah. So then we were co-creating the celebration for her life. She lived till 88 and her mum died at 49. So it's a huge celebration of her. And what mattered to me was that we co-created it. So the great-grandchildren carried her ashes. Nico, the eldest, he carried her ashes in and put them on this little altar we'd created. And then the grandchildren carried her out. And different people spoke. her grandchildren, her great-grandchildren. It was fun. It was what my mum liked to tell us all how things should go and what to do. So I started the funeral off with her giving instructions. If anybody wants to see it, it's on my YouTube channel, Janet Redmond. Yeah. So it was perfectly her. I was able to say some potentially contentious things, but woven in, like it didn't pretend she was an angel. Yeah. And then not long after, we decided we'd take Mum's ashes back to where her brother and mother, father and uncles. And that's a whole other pantomime story.
Well,
but
I'm
let's
interested
stick
about that because I think it belongs together. It is definitely part of the whole journey.
Yeah, so it was great because her 4 nieces were so pleased. We wanted to take the rest of Mum's physical body home to where their dad was. And it was very moving and hilarious. We couldn't get her out of the urn. Didn't know she was in a plastic bag. We'd no scissors to cut the plastic bag. We all cried. But then it's like, this was just how it needed to go. So eventually we could all sprinkle just a bit because we'd ripped the plastic bag open just enough, which was perfect because then we all could shake a little bit of Mum on the physical ground. And oh, yeah, it was pretty precious. Yeah.
So England apparently also allows for spreading of ashes. Was it like between the countries? Was it easy to do?
Oh, yes, I had the paperwork that from New Zealand to there, but nobody asked. I just put Mum's ashes in Dad's suitcase. No, that part was easy. But we pirated the last bit because there was supposed to be a lot of paperwork. They said there wasn't room for Mum's ashes. So some of that was pirated.
And I'm getting, this is why this is an age conversation. It's because it is quite unusual and it's something that you pirated anyway by taking a stand for it to be in congruence or in integrity with, I would say, with your own necessity also. Is that accurate? What was your own necessity in this process?
Well, on my own knowing that's the place she needed to be. And because there's already 4 coffins in there from ages ago, like decades and decades, it'll be totally soiled now. Maybe bones. But we knew she needed to be there. And Mum's brother's wife's ashes were also in there. So it just was the place it needed to be. They'd have said no if we'd have asked officially. And we went ahead and used our authority and our knowing and did what was needed to be done.
And how is this now for you? Where are you in your grieving process, and does it feel complete with your mother now?
I cried once when I was taking her funeral, when I said, "And now, Mum, you face your final curtain," the song of My Way. Because I wasn't grieving her dying. I was relieved she was in no more physical pain. I haven't missed her because I grieved a long time ago that I had a different kind of mum than I would have thrived with. So there's been nothing to miss. So once I cried, putting her, knowing I was bringing her where she needed to be. I did say to Mum one time, "Mum, I'm scared I won't miss you when you die. And I want to miss you. And I'm not missing anything. And I'm remembering things with more love than I could have imagined." But she did it. She did the dying the days before the dying, her tough Lancashire soldier on coping mechanism was hard to watch. And now she's in no more physical pain.
And would you say that going through the process, also including your family, has been a healing happening for the whole family in a way?
What was healing was I could really physically touch my mum with love. Like she was in physical agony and wouldn't take more of this morphine. And I could be really tender with her. And that I'm glad about. And I wanted to sit at the hospital and not leave her on her own those 3 nights and the night at the hospice. Like, my heart wanted to do that. That's been the healing. But based on all the other huge healing processes I've done with Mum, about Mum, not so much with her. Yeah.
You hear that often, follow your heart. And I hear the healing that happens from trusting your heart and following that intuition or this inner knowing, which has been possible in your case because you have made space in your heart from the hurt or from the wounds. When my mother died, I held this like an online wake space to connect with other people around her death, and someone said, didn't you grieve your mom before? Because so many versions of her, like, don't they die again and again? You know, the mother, as you said, the mother that I loved, or the mother that I wished I had, she died long time ago because maybe we never had her, you know, come into this world and maybe have a vision of what it would be like to have a mother. Or maybe we don't even have that because we never really tapped into that. But somehow I think each of us has this longing or this knowing of kind of mother that would support us to thrive. And that death or that grieving really happens early on in life or at different times again, I guess. There's different versions of the mother dying happening while she's still alive.
Julia, I had the mother I needed to learn everything I know. My mum was my best trainer about what I would choose not to do. And once I could eventually look at it from that perspective, something shifted. People say, how do you know this stuff? Well, I know it because I know what it felt like to not have it. Yeah. So I could thank Mum for being the mum I needed, even though other parts of me that I got from my dad's mum, my grandma. Yeah, healing and gratitude and watching her be so tough and stoic means I'm really committed to keep softening any other layers in my heart. Yeah.
Thank you, Janet. It's time to come to an end, and I want to know whether there's anything else that you need to say. Is there?
What I'd like to say is once this podcast has been broadcast, I want to offer a responsible dying, getting all your ducks in a row space online.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Because the more the preparation, the more clarity of information you've got, the more informed you are at a time that you might be holding space for somebody's dying.
Thank you. And this already links into my last question, which is like, what would you invite like as this really tangible experiment for a woman that maybe isn't anywhere near this healing with her mother, what is one thing she could practice or experiment with to make space in herself to come closer to this acceptance of having had the mother that she needed?
Feel your heartache and welcome any resentment. Resentment's a doorway to discover the needs and longings that your mum didn't have the capacity to meet. The short word is feel. Yeah. And find someone who's a good listener and talk about what did you have to do in order to be in relationship with the mum you got. What was the adaptations and the survival mechanisms?
Thank you, Janet.
Thank you, Julia, for asking me.